Okay, so if you're still with me, that was part one of the training that I did. So I'm going to go ahead into part two. I just showed you ways to use Seesaw in the classroom. All right, so I'm moving on to the next slide. And when we take a look at it, we're going to see an image. And then we also see the words, what do you see? What do you think? And what do you wonder? Now, this strategy was shared when I went to see Kristen Zemke speak. She's amazing. Love Kristen Zemke. And she showed this photo to everyone and asked us those questions. Okay. And in a moment, I'll show you what that looks like in a K-2 world. But when she showed this image, I even had all the adults this morning. I said, what is it that you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? We had a discussion. They just turned and talked. You could actually use Seesaw, do this as a video prompt and you can have it on there. Afterwards, then we reveal what the image is actually coming from. Because a lot of the people thought, oh, well, this must be from a location where school hasn't been in session for a long time, when in fact, we actually find out that it was a real classroom that just recently got shut down. Okay. Now, again, I stressed to the adults this morning that that's not an image that you want to start out with K-2. We just did it for the PD. But then I showed them on the next slide. This is what this would look like for K-2. Show an image like this. Ask the students the same questions. What do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? And so then the kids are going to document what they know. Use it in Seesaw or other means just to turn and talk. And then when they tap on this image, it's going to prompt them to where that image came from, which it goes to one of my favorite websites, which is Wonderopolis. Wonderopolis is my all-time favorite because it has high interest informational text. And even if you are K-2, on the website, it shows a video clip and it will also read the article out loud to the student. So it has full accessibility features on it. So the same concept, what do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? Okay. So that's another strategy that you can use with the students instead of just staying at level 1. The next option is Flipgrid. Flipgrid's becoming more and more popular. It's an option where you can have students record a minute 30-second video telling, they're going to record what they're going to show what they know about the topic that you've given them. Now, if you have time, you can go ahead and click on this video. I found it online, and it's a couple of teachers that are showing you actual examples of how they used Flipgrid in the classroom. It's a really good video. I'm not going to show it right now. Another option that you have is to install Alice Keeler's Webcam Record Chrome extension. It's awesome. It's pretty new. And she makes it so that you can capture 30 seconds of reflection, and then you can insert it into a Google slide. So if you want more information on that, you can tap that image there. Now, this morning I cautioned the group and I said, well, if you're someone who's really at level 1 and you're barely getting into level 2, when I'm talking about Flipgrid and I'm talking about these things, that might start to get you a little bit, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But that's fine. I just want you to know all these options that are out there. You've got plenty of choices that you can make. On the next slide, I then start to talk about how you probably want to set up an audio recording booth. So I've got a link to some places on Twitter where you can find that. Sarah Weck, first grade at Kitley, showed how she found a telephone microphone and she plugged that into the Chromebook. And then the students were actually using the voice typing feature within Google Docs. Again, these students are in first grade. So don't discount those options as well. All right. Back to Kristen Zemke, and one of the suggestions that she gives all the time is using Padlet. Padlet, if you're not familiar with it, I like to call it like a virtual collaborative Post-it note board. Okay, but you can add all kinds of photos, videos, and so on. So the example that she shares is having the students take a picture of a book that they're currently reading. And as the students are older, then you could even have them type in there, why they like to read that book. Okay. But as you're finding all of these samples, I want you to ask yourself, Does the work sample reflect your lesson objective? So every time that you're using technology for something, I want you to be thinking about that. Okay? Then we're going to go into level 3. When you are ready for level 3, then that's when you're ready to start doing hyperdocs with your classroom. And when you're doing hyperdocs, those students are at a show what you know level, and they're definitely going to be doing creation, because if you know what a hyperdoc is, then you know that at the end of the hyperdoc, then the student has to apply what it is that they've learned. You also know that you're at level 3 because you're actively looking for ways to balance technology and literacy. And that's why you see the Twitter birds there, because you're active on Twitter and you're trying to reach out and find those. Now, I have a few slides that's describing what that looks like. So this is me in a classroom doing a model lesson. If you're going to do a hyperdoc, again, you've got to model ahead of time, show the students what it is that they need to do slide by slide. The I do, we do, you do model. So you see an image of where I have the hyperdoc right here. And then I also have an image of a student that's working on a hyperdoc. Now, I recommended to our teachers this morning that this image that I already have posted on Twitter, I suggested to our teachers to print out this image and have it over by their desk. So when they're planning out what it is that they want to do, they can take a look at this screen to help them. It's like an overview snapshot of everything that I had talked about. Now, one of the things on here, you notice again, I'm telling you that caution symbol, please do not stay at level 1. I want you to see the arrow that I have across the bottom because it's showing you consumption versus creation. So these truly are, when you're at level 1, that's at consumption. And that's why I'm saying it's a starting point, but I really want you to get beyond that. Then we get into consumption and light creation in level 2. And once we get to level 3, then we're getting into definite creation. Now notice this training was not about what hyperdocs are and so on. That's a whole different training that I do in our district. Over here off to the side, we've already done a lot of PD on the SAMR model. And I want to remind teachers that when you're thinking in terms of SAMR, focus on swimming laps rather than just living in one of the levels. So there's nothing wrong with saying that you use level 1, level 2, and level 3. If I stayed in level 3 all the time and I hyperdocked my kids to death, they would not like it. Too much of a good thing is going to, drive them crazy. So you do want to have a balance and a mix of what it is that you're doing. At the end, I told the teachers, I love this quote from Alice Keeler, because I get a lot of teachers that'll say, yeah, well, I'm just not the techie person. So I love her quote. The only difference between I'm techie and I'm not is the willingness to click on stuff and see what happens. So I know that you can do a great job with this. You can reach out to me if you have any questions. I can even provide PD if you want me to. Our website for tech integration is www.ftechtips.com. And thank you very much.